Okay, I'm going to talk about ImageSprite cannibalism. That's when you're dragging one ImageSprite and on your canvas, and it connects with another ImageSprite, and they lock together, and there's no pulling them apart. It's like super glue. Okay, there's an easy way to avoid this from happening. What you have to do first is create an ImageSprite. I've already dragged one out. That will be a placeholder ImageSprite. We're just going to use the component block for that in the rest of the app. But this particular one that I created, I set visible false. We're not going to be using it for anything. We don't want to be dragging it or moving it in any way. So it's hidden from view. And then these two represent the two ImageSprites that you would have in your app. And you could have more than two. I'm just keeping it simple by having just two. So there's nothing special about these. In this particular instance, they happen to be some ImageSprites that represent hockey players. Okay, so on to the blocks editor. So what we need to do, what we would normally have without handling this problem, is we would have drag event blocks and possibly move two blocks inside there to move the ImageSprites for each ImageSprite. And that's what's normally done. But you have this side effect that you just saw. So in order to prevent that, there are a few other things we need to include. And one will be just a global variable that's going to hold the current ImageSprite. That's the current one that's being dragged. So we can't initialize that to an ImageSprite component block without giving an error. So we have to just leave this as, it could be a 0, it could be a text block, it doesn't really matter, but you have to plug something in. Okay, and the next thing would be, what happens is when one of these ImageSprites is chosen, they're touched before they're dragged. So we can use a touchdown block. We'll start with ImageSprite 1. The touchdown block just sets that global variable current ISP to user1 ISP. So it now has control. It's the one that will be the one that is dragged. And we'll also add a touch-up block. And this touch-up block will be for when the finger is lifted and that ImageSprite is no longer being dragged. That makes it available for another ImageSprite to take control. Okay? So, in addition to that, we need to do some testing inside each of these drag blocks. We need to put an if condition. If the current ImageSprite is the user1 ImageSprite in this particular case, if that's the case, then it's okay to go ahead and move it because it has control. It would be ImageSprite 2, then you could see nothing would happen. It would just be ignored. So that's how we use the global variable and placeholder ImageSprite component block to set and unset control of the current ImageSprite. Okay, so that would be duplicated for ImageSprite 2. We have the same setup. We put our if condition. We test, is the current ImageSprite user 2 ImageSprite? And if so, we're allowing ImageSprite 2 to be moved. We also need those touch down and touch up event blocks. So ImageSprite 2 can take control here. ImageSprite 2 is now the current ImageSprite. And while it's being dragged, while the current ImageSprite is ImageSprite 2, it will be the only one that will be dragged. This test will fail. So ImageSprite 1 will not be able to link with ImageSprite 2. And then when the user releases their finger on touch up of ImageSprite 2, then placeholder is placed back into current ISP. That's the only reason we need placeholder ISPs, that we have something else other than the two that you started with. You have something else that you can plug in here. So now we'll go back, and we've got those in place and they're activated, and you see I was able to drag one ImageSprite away from the other. They pass right over or through each other without any interference, and that is the behavior that we want. So keep these little tools in mind, and this will maybe be helpful for you in the future. So thank you for watching, and that's it.